Hey Doug, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every week, Todd. Try to record a podcast.
My brain's a rocket, can't sit still. Thoughts collide, they always spill. A million voices shout my name. Never boring, never tame. ADHD, we're running wild. Focus, fading, chaotic child. Turn the volume up, take a ride. In this crazy storm, I can't hide.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the
Hey.
ADHP with Doug and Todd. I'm Doug. That's Todd. How
Hi.
you doing, Todd?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's we're doing our first official live stream, so we
Yeah,
didn't.
we're live. We're doing it
We're
live.
doing it live. Yeah. I don't know. I can't count the number of times that line has been said anytime I've done a live stream with anybody. They're like, "We're doing it live." It's like,
It's a prerequisite
I
now.
mean,
You
you
got
kind
to
of
you got to
have
do it.
to, right? So we are streaming on Twitch
Twitch
and
and the
on
YouTubes.
YouTube. So yeah,
Yeah, and there's a live chat. So if you are listening to this live right now on Sunday, April 13th, around 6:22 p.m. West Coast time, jump in the chat.
yeah,
We'd love to
absolutely.
hear from you.
I mean, if they're listening to this now, they're like, "Oh man, we missed it."
Yeah, we'll try to announce. I mean, we told nobody what time we were doing this,
Yeah,
so
we
if
didn't tell
you are
anybody. We
listening
didn't say,
live right
"Hey, we're
now,
gonna go live this week." Nothing. So next week, know that we're probably gonna go live about this time, probably give or take.
yeah,
Uh,
we'll try and announce it ahead of time, but it'll be sometime on Sunday more than likely.
yeah, yeah.
I
Sunday in the afternoon, evening times. So, did you go see that movie with your family?
I did. I just got back from seeing the Minecraft movie, and
And
I loved it. I did. I went in. Now it helped that I went in with absolutely no expectations. My expectations were on the floor. From the moment I saw the first trailer to the at the last movie I took the kids to, just seeing Jack Black in all his current status. It's like he didn't even get in shape or shave or anything for the role. It looks like he rolled out of bed and made the movie.
I mean, to be fair, he did have various variations of his beard. In the beginning of the movie, it was more kempt,
Yes,
and
and it was dark.
it was dark. And I think the beard growth was supposed to indicate he's been in there a very long time.
Yes, yes, but there was none of that. Oh, I'm losing weight for a role thing. He was
Oh yeah,
definitely
yeah, yeah.
Jack Black in
He
all
doesn't
his
need
glory,
to.
and he really didn't. It was so much fun. My older stepson said it was the perfect movie.
Yeah.
He said it was absolutely perfect, and I loved it. I could go watch it again right now. It moves fast. It doesn't stall. You're never bored,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's silly. It's super silly, but
Right.
it's fine. Like it gets away with a lot because of how unserious it is. But it does my favorite thing in a fantasy movie or show in that it takes its silliness seriously. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it plays to the rules that it creates, but it's there's nothing too serious about it. But it takes its silliness seriously.
I really liked Jason's character is kind of like this has been pseudo celebrity, and he's like, you know,
This
still
is the most
still
Yeah, this is the
holding
most
on
I've
to
ever
it.
liked Jason Momoa.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as the character, that character is a complete dickwad and not likable at the very beginning of the movie. And I think as it progresses, he becomes likable. But yeah, he's just he almost had that kind of like um, dude from Cobra Kai kind of vibe where he's just like, yeah, the '80s are awesome, and you're a pussy, and blah 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 blah. And, you know, I
Well,
can.
you know what I was going to compare him to is he's the Han Solo of this movie. But whereas Han Solo was more of a I don't know, Han Solo was kind of a loser at the start.
I
Like
mean,
he
he was
owed
a
money
scoundrel
to
for
Jabba.
sure. That
Yeah.
was his descriptor in the beginning of those movies. He was a
And I don't want to
scoundrel.
spoil anything, but he definitely has his Han moment too at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, he progressively becomes a likable dude. So, I
And then
I I didn't see it in theaters. I did find it online and watched a copy of it. I'm not gonna say where I saw it, just that I saw it, and I do want to see it in its full glory.
we did get a large popcorn that we refilled once, but it was just a regular popcorn bucket.
Did you go to like a big theater, or was it the little one in your
No,
town?
we went to Galaxy Theaters down in Gig Harbor, Washington.
Okay.
So that's a pretty. We saw the DFX screening of it. It's a
Ooh.
yeah. So we got the real deal. It's just the last time we were there, we got the special Dune or something popcorn bucket. I just think they
the
were just out.
fleshlight popcorn bucket. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe it was a Gladiator one. They had like 3 options.
Well, I
last
mean,
time
if it's the one I'm thinking of, it looks like the sandworm.
Yeah, it was not that one last time.
Okay,
So
you're like, no, I didn't get the fleshlight.
yeah, I didn't get the
popcorn
sex toy
bucket.
popcorn bucket.
So, yeah, yeah,
But Jennifer Coolidge, I have to talk about Jennifer Coolidge. She had the best line in the whole movie to me when she hits the guy with her car. And then she's like, "You're not going to sue me, are you? People always want to sue me when I hit them with my Jeep Grand Cherokee."
I forgot about that. Oh wow, that's funny. Oh wow, yeah, no, I definitely want to see it though. I'm hesitant to go see it in the local big theater near me because there's definitely going to be a lot of kids, and so yeah.
They were behaved in my theater. There was one kid with a light up sword who at key moments of the show would light it up and hold it up in celebration, but it wasn't too distracting. He only did it like 3 times. But the
Well, that's
kids were
good.
good. The only time I really heard the kids was when Steve says, "I am Steve." All the kids said it with him, which was actually kind of cool.
Okay,
Like that was
that's not so bad. It's the popcorn throwing and just the general
yeah.
chaos I saw in those videos on social media that like nah, I have a hard enough time going to the theater being around a bunch of people I don't know anyway. So I don't want to be pummeled with popcorn, you know.
And what I dug about this theater is because it's the DFX theater, I guess, but every row was like totally isolated from the one in front of behind it. Like you had a massive wall behind you. Like when you're sitting in
Oh,
your seat, you couldn't even tell that there were people behind you.
okay.
It was nice.
That's
Yeah.
nice. I don't know if I've ever
And they
been to.
recline and they have a little table and
Ooh.
it's very, very fancy.
Yeah, that explains the expensive of everything. So, yeah,
Yes, yes.
but yeah,
Yeah,
no.
they actually closed the theater in our town here about a year ago or so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Port Orchard.
Yeah, because wasn't there one like downtown Port Orchard that I mean, I remember there being a tiny little theater in downtown. Um,
That might still exist. I don't know if what they show there, but the main theater, which is up on the hill, it was like a 9-plex or 6-plex or something,
okay.
and
I don't know
it's
if I've
completely shut down.
I've never been to that one. There was one. I think the one you went to is the one I went and saw the uh, Kong versus Godzilla with
In
Marianne
Gig
and the
Harbor,
family. Yeah, I think it was in Gig Harbor.
that's a good place to see
It's a
really
massive
big
theater.
budget movies. That's where I saw Maverick and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah,
What do you think of that movie,
of
Maverick?
Maverick. I mean, I'm a Top Gun guy, so like I saw the first Top Gun when I was like 3 years old,
Yeah.
and I've been in love with Top Gun my entire life. When they first announced that they were doing a legacy sequel, I was skeptical. I was just like, no, we don't need to mess with this. Please don't do it.
Yeah.
And then I saw the movie and I was blown away. Like I definitely have notes,
There
but
was
that
a
we don't need to
I
get
definitely
into.
had notes as well. See the thing is for me, I didn't get to see the original Top Gun in theaters because my mom doesn't see movies more than once, and my sister didn't want to go see the movie with her little brother, so I wasn't able to see that movie in theaters. I didn't see that movie until it hit HBO, and I don't think it had the same impact on me as it did you, but I went and saw the new one in theaters, and there was a lot. I mean, it basically was in my mind, it was kind of like a cross between Star Wars: A New Hope and the original Top Gun, where you
Yes,
see all the same
yes.
things, and then there's also a couple things that are heavily borrowed from Lucasfilm. Um, but like the stay on target, Stay on
Oh
target.
yeah, the whole final mission is the trench run.
It is.
100% the trench
I'm like,
run.
oh man. I mean, that made me like it a little bit more, but it's just like, okay, this is just basically they recycled all the scenes that everyone seemed to like from the original one, like the
The volleyball scene became
racing the jet plane with his motorcycle, and then the
Oh yes.
the greased up volleyball game, um, and of course
Hanging with the boys.
you know, guys, if you haven't seen this movie by now, it's spoilers. I'm just gonna say, we get to see Iceman again, and that's his last movie.
Yeah. And what ends up being Val Kilmer's final role.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
And what a goodbye for him it was.
And what was great, and people seem to think it was AI. It was not AI. The voice you hear in that, as well as the documentary called Val, where you hear him talking, it's not him. It's not even AI. It's his son, his eldest boy, and he sounds just like his dad. It's crazy how much he sounds like his dad when he was that age. But yeah. So.
And now I don't know if you know this, Todd. You're talking about how close Maverick, or how much Maverick borrowed from Star Wars. And I promise we'll get to the politics soon, folks.
Yeah.
But we're starting off with more pop culture than usual. But the original idea for Top Gun came about from some of the writers read a magazine article about the dogfighting school in Miramar, where the name Top Gun comes from.
Right.
And they also had just seen Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
And they wanted a dogfighting movie that was like the dogfighting scenes from Star Wars.
Oh,
So
okay.
Star Wars actually inspired the original Top Gun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's would have been one of my nerdy hats to hang on it. It's like a lot of Top Gun fans are dude bros and meatheads, but they don't understand that it is drenched in geek culture.
Guys who wear their baseball caps backwards, and also put on their Oakleys on backwards as well, and then hold their hand above their eyes when it gets bright.
Yes. Yeah, I forgot I had glasses.
But all right, sorry, I didn't mean to derail the podcast and start talking nerd shit already, but I knew you saw the movie today, and I just wanted to ask, and I had to get that out of the way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm happy to get sidetracked. But we do have a lot to get to here.
Yes.
It's going to be a bit of a cumbersome episode possibly here, because we're talking about real fun, exciting stuff this week, like tariffs and bonds and that sort of stuff. So get on the edge of your seat, folks.
It does look like we have one person watching over on Twitch. So hello.
Hello.
It doesn't
Well,
say
awesome.
It doesn't say who it is. It just says.
Is it just you? Is it just you because you're logged in?
I'm not. No, maybe
Maybe it's me.
Maybe one of us has it open. Maybe I don't have it open.
I only have the Discord chat open.
Okay,
so.
then maybe no. It shows that there's eyes over on Twitch. So is it?
Maybe it's the government.
Yeah, they're keeping an eye on us. It shows that there's eyes over on Twitch.
So getting into our main topic for today.
Yeah, they're keeping an eye on us.
The first thing I wanted to cover is kind of going back to a previous topic where we talked about basic income, or universal basic income, guaranteed income. This is going to be a big topic for me throughout the life of this show, however long it lasts, because I think this is what our future demands if we're going to have if we're going to take care of people. I think we have to eventually have a universal basic income. So we talked about it before. And Todd, do you remember what we said was the most consistent outcome from these basic income programs?
I do not. I don't even remember what I ate today, so that doesn't say a whole lot.
Well, the big thing is that it helps mental health. Like that was like the universal result was no matter what the study found. We went over a few basic studies. They all agreed that it was an increase to mental health. So we have a new report now. Another experiment on basic monthly income has had its analysis come out. It was a German experiment, and it found. So one of the big criticisms of basic income is that it deters people from seeking work. Like people are always like, oh, well, if you get a basic income, you're not going to want to work. But every single study we found, that doesn't appear to happen, and that's again the case with this new German experiment. So they
Okay.
found that people are likely to continue working full time even if they receive no strings attached universal basic income payments. So and even Elon Musk back in 2018 agreed that universal income will be necessary over time if AI takes over most human jobs. I mean, that's just and that's, you know, a broken clock is right twice a day, and that's one of the two I guess we can give Elon, is he's right about that. If we're gonna take away all the jobs with AI and automation, then we all need to share. We all need a cut, basically. We all have a stake in this economy, and therefore we all deserve a cut.
Right.
So this particular study, it's a group called My Basic Income, which is in German, but I won't try to read the German. But it's a Berlin-based nonprofit that ran the German study. It followed 122 people for 3 years, from June 2021 to May 2024. And this group received an unconditional sum of 1,200 euros, which is $1,365 per month.
Okay.
So the study focused on people between ages 21 and 40 who lived alone and I'm sorry, Todd, I guess you wouldn't qualify for this study. And I would only get it for another 6 months. But these people who were between 21 and 40 and lived alone, they earned between 1,100 euros and 2,600 euros a month. So these were not people who made nothing, but they weren't super wealthy, obviously.
Right.
So that's between $1,250 and $2,950 a month in US dollars. And they were free to use the extra money from the study on anything they wanted. So the only condition was that they filled out a questionnaire every 6 months that asked about different areas of their lives, including their financial situation, work patterns, mental well-being, and social engagement. So this article also cites the Stockton study that we covered in our previous episode. And that study, as we noted, had a profound impact on public health. But one concern voiced by critics is that receiving a basic income could make people less inclined to work. Excuse me. But the My Basic Income study suggests that may not be the case at all. It found that receiving a basic income was not a reason for people to quit their jobs. On average, study participants worked 40 hours a week and stayed in employment, identical to the study's control group, which received no payment. So according to the professor at the Vienna University of Economics and Business who was involved with the study, they found, quote, no evidence that people love doing nothing. Now, some people would argue that, well, these folks receiving the income knew the program wasn't going to last forever, right? This was an objection we found in the previous episode, where they argue that knowing it was going to end in 3 years or whatever they knew, they would likely need to keep their jobs because the money wasn't always going to be coming in.
Right.
So here's the kicker. Unlike the control group, those receiving a basic income were more likely to change jobs or enroll in further education. And they reported greater satisfaction in their working life and were, quote, significantly more satisfied with their income. So what we see is that there's no evidence that basic income reduces economic and labor market activity, but instead it gives workers the economic security to take good risks and avoid bad ones in their working lives. So they aren't afraid to try and change jobs because they know they have that baseline income, or they'll even go back to school because they know that they don't have to work in order to put food on the table. They'll at least have a place to crash and some basic food to eat. But that to me that's the sign of mental health right there. Is
Right.
If you're in a bad job, you have the freedom to go find a new one without being like, well, I'm going to be on my own, eating into my savings until this new job comes through. And I think that on its own is a huge increase to mental health. And by having it be an unconditional amount of money, it ensures people have enough for the basics and removes perverse disincentives from engaging in work. So it's just a win-win all around.
Right.
And so I'm going to be harping on this for the life of this show until we get a basic income. It needs to become the standard. And once we have a basic income, we can get rid of things like a minimum wage. We can get rid of a lot of those kind of hiring rules and things like that. Like, you don't need to have, I don't want to say we could get rid of DEI in that case, but it would be less of an urgency to have these kind of rules and regulations around hiring practices, because we aren't going to have to be so worried that people are only working out of exploitation. And once we take the exploitation out, and then people will be happier because they're going to be doing something that they think needs to be done or they really want to do, rather than here's a meaningless job that I need to in order to eat this month. So that's what I have on the follow-up to basic income. I happened to see this story this week, and I couldn't let it go. The other main topic for today is, of course, the tariffs and everything that's happening. So, not that we are the know-all, be-all of economic conditions and economic policy. I do want to make sure we're on the record about what's going on, because I think there's definitely a divide between what Trump supporters think is happening, what anti-Trump people are saying is happening, and what the truth may be. So a lot of people have been talking about Smoot-Hawley. We talked about Smoot-Hawley a couple weeks ago, I think, and saying that the Smoot-Hawley tariffs caused the Great Depression. They didn't specifically cause the Great Depression. They exacerbated it. The Great Depression was already happening, and then Smoot-Hawley tariffs were a response to that, and then that just made it a total global disaster. The cumulative effect was a declining output in several countries and a reduction in global trade, which meant we couldn't trade our way out of it with anybody. At the time, America was home to cheap goods, and America ran a trade surplus, where, you hear Trump nowadays talk about how we have this trade deficit with all these countries, and therefore we have to do tariffs in order to even out the trade deficit, which is a silly reason to do tariffs. As we also did tariffs when we had a trade surplus in our favor, and that still was bad. So you could argue that because we have a trade deficit, maybe it's not as bad for us to do the tariffs. But you see, as soon as other countries do retaliatory tariffs, it has a problem that I'm only seeing very few people talk about, and it's not a left or right thing. It's basically banking experts are like the only one who get this. And so I've been listening to some people who are quoting anonymous banking experts, because so I guess the one thing I want to get to, the one thing I want to say before I get to this next part is, because of the damage that the tariffs had during the Great Depression, Congress gave the president powers to change tariffs by up and down 50%. They did that because they needed quick action to get rid of tariffs. So this is now the same power that Trump is using to put tariffs back. So it's sort of like Smoot-Hawley coming full circle again. And what was interesting, though, is, of course, what happened after Trump announced the tariffs. The market tanked, and he immediately backed off of it. So, and one of the funny things that happened as a result of this is that Trump supporters were kind of caught with their pants down, because between the day he announced the tariffs on April 2nd and the day that they went into effect 1 week later, they were all champions of the tariffs. I asked in my political group to the people that were supporting tariffs, I said, so how long, because I suspected he was going to back down pretty quick. Right. So I asked them, how long do we put tariffs for? Like, how long do these tariffs need to be in effect? Because their argument was the tariffs are important for bringing manufacturing back. My response was, if that's what they're for, one, how long do they need to be in effect for this to happen? And two, if we're really expecting the manufacturing to come back, where is the investment in infrastructure to support that? They aren't doing any kind of domestic investments in anticipation of jobs coming back. So what? And how long are we? And there's no commitment to how long this is going to happen. And the response I received one person just said, let the tariffs ride. The other person said, well, I don't believe in domestic investment because traditionally it gets squandered, which is not true. That's just their right-leaning perspective on that. But it was just the answer was essentially as long as it takes, right?
Right.
And my point, and I said back to them, well, I'm asking this because I feel like he's just gonna back down or reverse them quickly, and then claim a made-up victory and say, I got what I wanted, and that appears to be exactly what happened.
Okay.
They came back to me and said, well, as I predict, just as I thought, it was a negotiation tactic. He wanted to bring them. He now has 70 plus countries that are wanting to negotiate with him, and it's like, okay, so one day let the tariffs ride, the next day, oh, it was a negotiation tactic all along. And these people are they're just contorting their mind to support Trump's day-to-day whims. And it was made plain as day by this tariff thing. The other point I needed to make is, should we believe the 70 plus countries that the Trump admin says they have are in negotiations with?
I mean,
And
probably not.
well, here's the thing. The White House won't say who they're working with. They won't say the names of the countries. They said there were 50. Then they said there was almost 70. Now they're saying there's over 70. And they're all in active negotiations. Eventually they clarified, well, there's only 15 that have made offers. But still, they won't say who the countries are.
Of course not.
So they're planning to get 70 plus deals done over the next 90 days, supposedly, because this is a 90-day pause on tariffs. Do you know how many trade negotiations the Trump administration did during Trump's entire first term?
No.
2. They renegotiated NAFTA under a new name, and they renegotiated an existing deal with South Korea. So through the entire first 4 years, they did 2 trade deals. And now they want us to believe they're going to do 70 plus in the next 90 days. We also know that Trump lies. We know he's a con man. During his first term, he repeatedly claimed to have had conversations and negotiations with different foreign individuals, heads of government and heads of state,
Right.
that were completely made up. Like, he made up something about how there's a country that charges America every time we fly over it. And I called the guy up, and he agreed not to do that anymore, so that's going to save us millions. It never happened. It never happened. That situation never even existed.
Not
So Trump-
surprised.
Yeah, so Trump is a known liar. We should not believe anything about specifics that he says without them being transparent about the who's and the what's. We
Show 'em
cannot
the
take
receipts.
their word for anything. Exactly. Show me the receipts. So what really happened this last week? Was it just if it's not a negotiation tactic like Trump wants his people to believe, if it wasn't just, oh, I'm going to put these big tariffs, I'm going to announce these big tariffs, but as long as somebody comes to the trading board beforehand, I'm going to pause them all except for the ones on China. Because that doesn't even make sense. Is it every single country except China came to the negotiation table? No, that's not even what they're saying. But they still paused it on everyone except China. So what really happened there? Why did he back off? What scared him? So first, recall Trump's 3 motives as we've identified them on this show.
Yeah.
1, enrich himself and his cronies. 2, promote global Putinism. And 3, stay out of jail.
Yeah, tickle Putin's balls and stay out of jail.
Yeah. By my account, what happened this last week is squarely in category 2. This is a thing to help Putin's goal of isolating America and lowering our standard in the world. So the reason why it came back on him is because of the bond market. The US bond market is the safest investment basically in the world. It is the rock solid safety investment, US bonds. They always go up. And so this is where, so I took this from Carrick Ryan's Facebook, who had a senior banker share his opinion. It had to be anonymously so he could be as frank as possible. But the long story short of it is that the U.S. is borrowing unsustainably, issuing bonds every month. It is imposing extreme tariffs on both friendly and non-friendly countries. So now there's a total mistrust in U.S. government policy, which is we're doing protectionism in a world of global trade. And the stock markets are crashing. Over-leveraged bond trades are blowing up. Safe assets are being sold off. So Japan and China have historically been the largest holders of our bonds, and they're starting to sell them. And that may be the final straw, is that China may sell its U.S. bond holdings in retaliation. So because of that, they had to bring in new people that were not quite as trade hawkish as like the Peter Navarro of the world. And they convinced Trump that if China sells their bond holdings, it would decimate America's standing in the world. Now, I do think he wants to do that ultimately, but he can't do it all at once. And he can't take the blame for it. He can't lose the faith of his own supporters, otherwise he's toast. So once they told him that that bond market was going to tank, that's what got him to take the pause off.
Yeah.
And I think, quite frankly, I think they didn't get the people coming to the negotiation table that they wanted. So that's why they're lying about it and why they paused it before it even went into effect. Because if you were really serious about bringing people to the table, you'd have to let it go into effect. But the point of the matter is the damage may already be done to the reputation, right? He still wants to he wants a chance at a strong economy so that he can say he needs to be kept in office past his second term. But he wants there to be no faith in the bond market, because that keeps us from being this buoy to the world. It basically, he wants to put us in a situation where the only people we can trust are Putin and Putin's allies. Or should I say, the only people that trust us are Putin's and Putin's allies, while the only respect we can garner from the rest of the world is via our military might.
Yeah.
So an isolationist country with the world's biggest military, that's what he wants to create. And if that happens, that is a recipe for war. We're going to have to go around the world. And again, he set the table for invading Greenland. He set the table for invading Panama. Hell, he's even set the table for potentially going to war with Canada.
Yeah.
And so I think he's trying to create the economic conditions where that becomes, where he can actually feel like he has the political capital to do those types of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think I saw a video clip of him saying that, now is a good time to buy stocks.
Well, that's the other part of this is so before I get to that real quick, is just to back up what I was saying. I had already written that part that I just said multiple times on Facebook before I heard what Jamie Dimon, who fuck Jamie Dimon, but he is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. And in his annual letter to shareholders on Monday, he said Trump's America First policy risks alienating its most important partners and the country's special standing in the world. And again, if you're Putin, that's exactly what you want in America right now.
Right.
Is you want us to lose our special standing in the world. You want us to alienate our most important partners, because then we aren't able to cohesively counter Russian aggression wherever it may be in the world. So this is all setting up for Putin. After Trump's first term, probably Putin didn't think Trump would be able to win again after Jan 6.
Yeah.
Like we all thought Trump wouldn't be able to win again after Jan 6. So that's why he started Ukraine. He started doing Ukraine then because he thought that was the time that America is most divided and could not have a cohesive response. Biden, to his credit, got the world united against Putin. But now that Trump's back, he is making sure that we could never have that sort of cooperation against Russia again. Hopefully, once we get Trump out of here, we have a new leader that can bring that alliance back. So Trump's people were able to convince him to pause the tariffs, but the damage of distrust may already be done. I believe that Trump's people knew the markets would respond the way they did between the announcement on the 2nd and the implementation on the 9th. And so they are saying, okay, we'll give it a chance to see if the world will cave and beg for deals. But even if that doesn't happen, if Trump just needs to reverse his position, it'll create a large buying opportunity for all the wealthy cronies.
Right.
And then that's where we hit the thing that you said, Todd, is Trump told investors to buy on social media hours before he announced his tariff pause. So remember when he announced his tariffs on the 2nd, he waited for the close of stocks that day to announce them. But he announced the pause during trading. And if you look at the calls, there's a whole spike in calls right before the announcement, which suggests that a number of people had insider info. And to their credit, the Dems are calling for investigations, but some of that's hypocritical because nobody in Congress should be able to trade. But this goes to show why we don't want the president being involved in financial issues privately. He should not have private stakes in the economy while he's president. The same reason President Carter put his peanut farm in a blind trust so nobody could question whether he's doing things favorable to his own trust. Yet here we have the current president telling people to buy just a few hours before he announced his pause. It's such a blatant corruption that everyone should be pissed about this. Everyone should be up in arms about this. And yet his cult continues to just make excuses for him. And it's always 3D chess or 4D chess. It's always, Trump is 10 moves ahead. Trump is always behind his own ideas. He is, and I don't mean that in terms of like he's got their back. I mean he's operating from moment to moment, whatever is politically expedient. He is never leading the way. He is always following reality. He's always following the repercussions of his actions with new excuses. So I just wanted everybody to understand it's the bond market that really makes America everyone's cash cow. It is the rock solid. It is the new gold standard, as it were. And as we damage the bond market, as we damage faith in the bond market, that is where we really lose our standing in the world. And at least they backed off this time and used it as a money-making scheme. But what's going to happen in 84 days from now or whatever it is when the 90-day pause is up? Stay tuned. All right. So that was the main topic for today, and then we're going to move over into news of the week here. Let me just take a sip of my water.
Yeah. It looks like somebody wrote in the chat, Foxtrot Delta Tango. Agreed.
Okay, I'm not seeing that in the Discord, so I must not be connected.
Yeah, I don't know. Hold on. It's like I said, I was sure that this is supposed to synchronize all the chats, but maybe it doesn't. But that was over on Twitch, and it is.
Well, that's okay as long as you're monitoring it.
It shows up in the video, so.
And we're happy to take questions. If anybody puts a question in chat, I'll do my best to answer it. My point of this show is not to say that I'm the expert. I'm trying to learn and share what I'm learning along with my opinions. Yeah. And so we're all kind of feeling this out together. So no question is a dumb question. No comment's a bad comment. If you want to tell us that we're effing stupid and to F off, by all means, have at it.
Yeah. I will say this though. I will not let trolls stay in the chat. So
if anybody's if you're spamming a message or you're just here to promote some other channel, we're probably going to ban that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just this. I mean, you can say one thing, but if you're going to continue to be a troll, then I'll boot you. I'm not going to play around with that. But,
so for news of the week, student visa cancellations have come about. So we're seeing student visa cancellations via the Suffice program.
Right.
But we do finally have somebody fighting back. So in the first bit of news, because we're local to the Seattle area, the University of Washington's a big deal here. And they've announced that there's about 9 students so far that have had their Suffice funding, their Suffice standing canceled. And what Suffice is, if I get my link back up here. So it's the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System. So it's run by the Department of Homeland Security. The Department of Homeland Security is Trump's basically brown shirt organization at this point. And what happens is they cancel their Suffice status, which effectively ends their F1 standing as a student in this country. And then they have a limited time to leave. But they are unlawfully doing this. So in the second story here, we actually have a student who is a student athlete in California, student Doe number 1 or something like that. They're not giving their real name, but they are suing DHS, and specifically they're suing well, what's the lady's name? The head of the DHS secretary, Kristi Noem. And they're also suing the director of ICE over unlawfully terminating Suffice records based on visa revocations, which appear to be designed to coerce students into abandoning their studies and, quote, self-reporting, unquote, despite not violating their legal status. So they argue that if ICE believes a student is deportable for having a revoked visa, it has the authority to initiate removal proceedings and make its case in court. It cannot, however, misuse Suffice to circumvent the law, strip students of status, and drive them out of the country without progress. So we actually have a court case to follow now to see where this is going to go. I think this is a big deal. I think they have every ground to win this case. And so we're just going to see what happens with this. Because right now, the University of Washington, Washington State University, they're basically monitoring Suffice on a daily basis to see who gets canceled because they're not notifying the people. They're not notifying the students. The government's not when they do this.
Okay.
What's happening is they're ending their Suffice status, and then they're sending HSI, which is Homeland Security Investigations, to just pick these people up in broad daylight. So that's like what I'm assuming that's what happened to the Tufts University student who was picked up by plainclothes agents.
Right.
And there was another, I don't know if you saw this on TikTok, but there was another recent situation this past week where an immigration lawyer pulled up to one of his clients' houses, and there were HSI agents in plain clothes hanging out outside her building, waiting for her to show up.
Oh.
And yeah, and he got into it with them in a lawful way. You know, he asked for identification. They exchanged some identification, and he said, you know, if you want to talk to my client, we can set up a meeting in my office. But they had 5 armed agents there to supposedly do what they said was a welfare check on this person's client.
A welfare check.
Since when does the federal government conduct welfare checks?
Right.
And so he got them to leave, and they walked off. They didn't go back to their vehicles. They walked off, and apparently they went to another immigrant down the block who was also a client of this lawyer, and went to go try and do the same thing to them. So they are HSI, plainclothes HSI agents are literally going door to door to try to essentially kidnap people and deport them. This is brown shirt activity. This is why I called DHS the Department of Brown Shirts. Yeah. Now we do have another victory on our side. So not that lawsuit's a victory yet, but we have somebody fighting back with their lawsuit. We have a student fighting back with their lawsuit. And then we also have SCOTUS unanimously striking down the Trump admin's policy. So in a 9-0 ruling, which includes Clarence frickin' Thomas on the side of justice for once, says the Trump admin must facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This is the man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador despite having a court order that he cannot be deported to El Salvador. Like in 2019, the court said this man cannot ever be deported to El Salvador, and the Trump admin admitted a mistake They even admitted he was not supposed to be there, but they've been saying, we can't get him back. He's under the sovereign rule of El Salvador now. We can't do anything. And so the court, the lower court said, you must facilitate and effectuate the return. Now, the Supreme Court has, in their 9-0 ruling, said effectuate needs to be revised because that sounds like you're telling the executive how to conduct foreign policy. But they must facilitate his return is being upheld in a 9-0 decision. So this is huge. This is an absolute now of course the Trump admin is dragging their feet, right? They're doing everything they can to slow this down. They had a 5 p.m. deadline yesterday, Saturday, to state what the current status was of Mr. Abrego Garcia. And it was a few minutes after the 5 p.m. deadline that they actually filed. And they said he is alive and detained in El Salvador. So now the judge is ordering them to start telling us what they're doing and how they're going to bring him back. And we're going to see continued updates. We'll see how much they're able to drag their feet on this. Obviously, the fear is that to make this problem go away for Mr. Trump, the El Salvadorian government's just going to kill this guy. Like, that's the concern. And I don't know what we do if that happens, right? Like because they're just going to say, oh, he was killed in a prison fight or something like that. And I don't know what do we do then? Because
suicide.
Yeah. Just like Epstein. It's weird.
Yeah. No, I don't know of anybody who believes that Epstein hung himself.
No, definitely not. I mean, if he hung himself, it's because he did it with a knife to his throat or something.
Yeah. I mean,
but
yeah.
But short of a general strike, which is kind of where I think things are going to end up coming to, is we're eventually going to have a general strike in this country. But really, short of that, what do we do? Well, like the whole oh my goodness, having a blank moment here, but the Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi, who was called to the Saudi Arabian consulate where they murdered him and hacked him to pieces. Right? This happened during Trump's first term. And some people think that he was given clearance. Like, most people think he wouldn't have just voluntarily gone there unless he was assured of his safety by somebody. And there's a lot of thought that Trump basically traded in Khashoggi for favoritism from the Saudis.
Okay.
We know that Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, received some really sweet deals from the Saudis, and in return, he gave, prior to it, in exchange for this, essentially in exchange, he provided the Saudis with a list of Western sympathizers, basically people in the Saudi royal family that were not necessarily fully on board with the Saudi prince. Okay. And those people all got imprisoned in a hotel in Saudi Arabia. And I don't know if they were all killed or some were killed. Some have just been detained. But it's just this absolute, like, crime thriller type bullshit. Like, this is the stuff that bad guys do in the movies.
Right.
And it's just, it makes me feel powerless. I don't know what to do about, like, how do we stop this kind of stuff from happening? And the only thing we can do is collective action. Speaking of collective action, we're going to put a couple of links in addition to all our sources for this week. There's going to be 2 links for action. So this is stuff you can do. So the first website is 5calls.org. Excuse me. That's the number 5, CALLS.org. What this does is it can connect you to your representative or your senator.
Nice.
And it gives you all these issues for what you can call on. And you just click on an issue and see what it tells you about it. So, like, you can call your congressperson. You can demand there. So there's links for April recess town hall. There's links for demanding the unfreezing of FEMA funds. There's opposing the SAVE Act, which we'll get to in a second. And the list goes down on things that you can call on, and it'll give you a little script and a little way to call your congressman or congresswoman or congressperson. Speaking of, and then the other link is www.mobilize.us. And this is the link I used to find the protest I went to on the 5th. And it'll basically just show you protests in your area and how you can sign up for them.
Yeah, that's how I got onto the online one.
Yeah. So those are two great resources that actually allow you to do something meaningful. And like we've stated on previous episodes, calling your congressperson is the most effective way to get their attention. Letters and emails are great, but they can ignore those. When their phone lines are constantly busy because of all the incoming calls, they care. So I mentioned the SAVE Act.
Yeah.
This is our last weekly item for the last weekly news item before we get into the fun stuff. One of the things that's blowing up on my feed, one of the things that all my progressive friends are up in arms about, is that a local Democratic congresswoman from Washington State, Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, she's in Washington's 3rd District, she was one of 4 Democrats who voted for the SAVE Act.
Oh, wow.
If you don't know, now do you know what the SAVE Act is, Todd?
Essentially, it's making it so that if you have changed your name from your birth certificate to anything else, so it basically is saying that if you're married and you changed your name to your husband's name, and your name does not appear to be the same as it is on your birth certificate, you cannot vote.
So that, and of course that's not what the bill itself says, but that is the practical effect of it.
Yeah.
So what the act requires is basically proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. And so just an ID is not enough. You'd have to have your photo ID and your birth certificate, or you have to have a passport. Basically the exact same thing you would have to do to get an I-9 or to travel internationally. Now you have to do that to register to vote if this passes.
I think if
so
you
everyone's
have
up
one
in
of
arms.
those enhanced licenses, that is acceptable. I think, isn't it?
I know a real ID is, which I don't know if a Washington State enhanced driver's license is the same thing as a real ID.
Is what that is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, that's another way you can do that. But of course, these things all have costs associated with them.
Yeah.
Some people may not have access to their birth certificate. I know mine's at my parents' house. It's like in a safe at my parents' house.
You can get one sent to you. You have to. I don't remember where I did it.
But of course, you have to have an address to get it, and you have to pay for that.
Yeah, it costs money. I think it was it wasn't that expensive. I think it was maybe $25-30.
But the whole point is that putting these barriers there just makes it less likely that you can't just go out and register people to vote.
People are not going to do it because it's going to cost them money.
And that's a poll tax. If it costs money to do it, that is a poll tax, and poll taxes are not supposed to be allowed.
Yeah.
So the SAVE Act is terrible. There is no doubt that the SAVE Act is terrible. However, I'm not up in arms about this like all my friends are. I'm not up in arms about her vote, I should say. These Democrats, I understand, they are blue dogs. A blue dog is basically a conservative Democrat, and really what it is a Democrat who won in a conservative district. And I think the only thing that we can really do right now, the only thing Democrats can do right now, is focus on winning the House back. They have no power in the federal government right now. So all they can do is focus on winning the House back. Because here's the thing. The SAVE Act is not a part of reconciliation. The SAVE Act has to be passed by the general rules of the Senate, which means it's subject to filibustering, which means the Republicans need 60 votes to pass the SAVE Act. That is not going to happen. They are not going to get 60 votes, so the SAVE Act is dead in the Senate. If somehow Chuck Schumer allows it to get to 60 and votes for cloture, then we're already fucked, because that means we're living in a dead democracy where the head of the Democrats in the Senate is actually working for the other side. And if that's the case, we're screwed anyways. Trump's going to get whatever he wants. So I have to believe that that's not true. I call it the. Did you ever watch the show House?
I'm aware of the show, and I watched like maybe a total of 10 or 20 minutes of it.
Yeah. So House had this idea. His job in the show was he was a diagnostics specialist. He would diagnose diseases or illnesses that nobody else could figure out. Well, one of his basic rules was if you whittle things down to two theories, and one of the theories is the patient's dead, and it's terminal, and there's nothing we can do, and the other theory is, well, we can try this. Then you always go with the theory where you can try something, because if the diagnosis is that the patient's terminal and nothing can be done, it's game over anyways. So I firmly believe that these 4 Democrats got permission from the party to cast these votes because it will help them get reelected. And all that matters right now is that we take the House back in 2026. And if these votes on the SAVE Act helps get these people reelected, it's worth it to me. That's just the bottom line. They are still good soldiers, and I don't think it's a condemnable fact for them to vote for something that they know is dead in the Senate. If there was any doubt that it's not dead in the Senate, then throw them to the coals. But I believe, and I believe they believe, that it's dead in the Senate. These votes were symbolic, and if it helps them win, that's what it is. And so I'm not going to condemn them for making these votes. I'm more going to condemn the people of their districts for demanding that they vote this way, right? This is a people problem. The people in their districts are wanting this, and so they have to placate them, even though they're never going to get it. Whew. How long have we been going now?
According to the stream, it's about an hour.
Okay, well, that's good. That works for me. I got through everything I really wanted to get to, and I think it's time to cleanse our palates.
All right, now it's time for the What's Geek This Week. And check this out.
Woo!
I got a graphic on the screen for it now. Cool. Thank you, Copilot, for helping me design that, which is probably just stealing somebody else's design.
Hey, not stealing somebody else's, stealing everybody else's.
I just saw an article yesterday, or a video yesterday, how the people that do Photoshop and PDF files, people that created those two things, and of course the name of the company is escaping me right now. Either way, they put it into their terms
Adobe?
of service that if you're using their products, that they have access to your the stuff that you're creating and backing up to the cloud. They're allowed to scrape that for AI, and I'm like, oh wow, that's why there's so much. There's so much.
There has to be a way to opt out of that. Is this Adobe that you're talking about?
Adobe, yeah, that's what it was, yeah. And no, you have to accept it, or you can't use the software.
Well, remember, to copy from one is plagiarism. To copy from many is research.
This is true. So, but I did pull up some articles. That was just something I just saw earlier today that I wanted to talk about briefly. The things I have listed on the show notes is the first thing that came up on my Feedly list today, and I love using Feedly because it's basically a feed reader, an RSS feed reader, and all the sites that I like to browse are all listed in there. And I got a story here that says Trump and Musk, according to, here it is, I already have it open. According to comicbookmovie.com, Trump and Musk are now supervillains in the Captain Canuck comics. It says here, inspired by the trade war and tariffs between the United States and Canada, Trump and Musk have been turned into supervillains in Captain Canuck comics. The character is essentially a Canadian version of Captain America. Captain Canuck first gained popularity in the 70s, and it seems as if the popularity lessened quite a bit, but the tensions between the two countries seem to have brought Captain Canuck back into the spotlight. Honestly, I don't even know what comic book company makes this. It's got to be a Canadian one because I've never heard of it. Um,
Yeah, and it makes sense though, since Trump and Musk are basically cartoon villains. Like I said, they act like the bad guy from a crime thriller.
yeah, they're straight out of like Austin Powers. You know, the bad guys are just goofy as fuck, and you if you didn't think they were serious, you'd be laughing at them. I mean, people laugh at them anyways, but you know what I mean.
But
Um,
yeah, but we laugh so we don't cry.
yeah. It would be sad if it wasn't true. Um, but or if it was, yeah, I said that wrong. Either way, the other things I have pulled up here is one of the stars of the new Daredevil Reborn or Born Again series on Disney Plus has expressed interest in playing Swamp Thing in the DCU. And you know what, I think that would be he would make for a good choice because he's a great actor. If you're not familiar, um, Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays Kingpin in
Uh huh.
both versions of the live action Daredevil series, has decided he wants to be Swamp Thing. And I mean, easily he could play the monster version of Swamp Thing, and not. I mean, he could also probably do the human version of the guy too. I think, but I would absolutely like to see this.
Now, is he allowed to do that? Contractually, is he allowed to cross over
I mean,
cinematic universes?
I think if it's not like something that's going to start production right away, possibly. I mean, we don't know if there's another season coming up for Daredevil, uh, Born Again, but
Sure seems like it. I think it
I
just
think
ended.
there's gonna be. They just haven't announced it that I've seen anyhow. They may have announced it, I just didn't see it yet. But so he's actually gonna be at SummerCon this year. I met him last year when he was here at SummerCon. Nice dude, really soft spoken. I was not expecting him to be that chill and relaxed. I figured he'd be a little bit like some of the characters I've seen him play. But and all the characters he's played have all been like, you know, wild-eyed and a little unhinged. So for him to be that relaxed and cool was kind of nice actually. But no, I think he'd make for a good Swamp Thing. I don't know uh, if if Gunn has even talked about Swamp Thing. Says the final film we want to talk about is Swamp Things, Gunn said. And look at that.
I guess he
Hey,
has.
if I just scrolled down a little bit further, I would have seen that. And we bring it up because it's important to point out in these stories, although interconnected, they're not all tonally the same. Each set of filmmakers brings their own aesthetic to these films, and the fun seeing how these tonally different works mash up in the future. This
And I think that's a shot at the MCU about the tonal changes because I think early on in the MCU they were going to do tonally different movies like the Multiverse of Madness when it was under its original director. And they said it was going to be a true horror movie.
yeah
I think they were really going to go for tonal changes, and that decision to not go that way has resulted in kind of a stagnant MCU. So I think James Gunn is taking a shot at the MCU there.
yeah absolutely. I mean he's actually I think brought over some of the actors that he's directed over in from Marvel to some of
Yeah,
his
definitely.
upcoming movies. So hopefully we'll see some good stuff with them. See here, what else?
And that was this is the first time I've heard anything about there being a Swamp Thing film. But the thing that has me most enthusiastic just looking at this article is it's going to be directed by James Mangold, who
Y-
of course did Logan
Right?
and the Wolverine.
Yeah.
And Logan is one of my favorite movies ever. Like Logan's up there with Top Gun for me. I love Logan.
It is a
And
great movie actually. I only know one person who was upset by it, and they were only upset because they killed Logan. So like you can't kill him, you just can't. Well, technically speaking, they didn't really kill him. They brought him back. So you know,
Though is it not that Logan though, right?
I mean, technically speaking, it is a different Earth, but it's the same actor and character.
For all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
Of course, we're talking about the Wolverine from Deadpool and Wolverine
Yeah.
as the one that
And
got brought back.
we saw many different Wolverines. The Wolverine that I would absolutely love to see more of is
Comic accurate?
I mean, that one was fucking hilarious. I still think that should have been Danny DeVito, but but no, I was talking about the Man of Steel Wolverine.
Ah,
And
Henry Cavill.
The Cavalry.
Cavalry.
That's what they called him. I was trying to remember what they called him. But Henry Cavill had a very small appearance in the movie, and he's just smoking a cigar, working on his motorcycle, and he turns around and Deadpool basically creams in his pants. But yeah, no, it was really funny, and I was like, oh man, I would absolutely love to see a full movie with Henry Cavill. So.
Yeah, that would be. I don't know if it can happen now that he's not Superman anymore. So yeah, it could totally happen.
Not. I mean,
maybe we'll see an expanded Cavalry in the Secret Wars or something. Have a Wolverine versus Wolverine fight like at the end of Logan.
I just want to see them fight. I mean, you saw Cavalry just knock him through, like, was it 2 or 3 like portal doors, But yeah. The other thing that I saw on here, there's a couple different things I wanted to talk about, but I just saw today. Apparently, they are in the works for another Beetlejuice movie. You know what? I didn't hate the new one. I didn't. I mean, was it great? I mean, it was a popcorn film. It was entertaining. There was a couple things that I saw. I was like, okay, they're definitely kind of redoing that again. And I did like, however, what they did with Jeffrey, what's his face's character, the guy who played the dad in the original movie. And I can't remember he got himself into trouble about a decade ago. He was arrested for having illegal pornography. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, jeez.
And so he's not allowed to work on any movies with children anymore.
That goes without saying.
Yeah.
Probably.
So what they did with his character is they basically his character got eaten by a shark. He got his head bitten off. And so you don't see his face. You hear him talk throughout the movie as a character, but I'm pretty sure they got someone who can just sound like him. So.
Oh yeah, what's the guy who does all the voices for the MCU now? Who does like Red Skull and.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on that guy.
Ross Marquand.
Marquand, yeah. He was one of my favorite characters in the zombie series on AMC. But it says here, Hollywood's favorite striped suit troublemaker isn't finished haunting theaters just yet. Warner Brothers Pictures is charging full steam ahead with plans for a third Beetlejuice installment after the runaway triumph of last year's long-awaited sequel. The studio's leadership team, still basking in the unexpected box office magic of both Beetlejuice, and the Minecraft movie, has confirmed that bringing back the mischievous bio-exorcist ranks among their top priorities, with the 2024 sequel ranking a jaw-dropping $451.9 million with an M million worldwide against its $100 million budget. The financial motivation is crystal clear, but the burning question remains: which key players from the franchise will sign on for another supernatural adventure? Well, I mean, they have to have Michael Keaton back. You can't do a Beetlejuice movie without Michael Keaton.
Well, and hearing that Beetlejuice only had $100 million budget, which is low for a blockbuster this time of this day and age, I gotta feel like most of that budget's Michael Keaton's salary.
And he was in. I mean, he did the same thing in the first movie too, where he was only in the movie for a certain amount of time. And he said, if I'm going to do this again, I'm only going to be in this amount of time. I mean, I can't be in there more than, I think it was like maybe 25 minutes total for the
And what
entire
did you
movie.
think of the second movie?
I liked
Did
it.
you
I enjoyed it. Was it as great as I was expecting? Not really, but I still liked it. I still enjoyed it. I didn't buy it or anything, but I did enjoy seeing it in theaters. I saw a couple Easter eggs that were kind of cool. Um, you know, and off the top of my head, the only one that stands out is that you see the characters that were played by Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis. They're not in the movie, technically speaking. The actors are not in the movie, but you see the figurines of those two people in the flyover the model of the town. You see them in the river on the bank of the river where the car crashed. But
my issue with the second movie is that it was just there was I know they did some things practical, but it was too much digital. It was too much of a it looks like they're in a room with a green screen type of thing. And I thought it didn't have the same soul
I
as the first Beetlejuice.
I'm not entirely sure that they did anything digital. I don't remember it being anything standing
It
out.
didn't have the right look to me. It felt like I was watching a made for TV movie more than a theater movie.
Yeah, I do.
Which seeing only $100 million budget, like maybe they weren't expecting it to do quite that well, and with how much money it made, maybe it'll get a $200 million budget and be
Right.
a bigger. It just the whole movie felt like it had a lid on it, and I just wasn't I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. Which of course the first one's a classic. I saw it as a kid, so it has
Yeah.
that nostalgia bonus.
Yeah.
But I didn't. It usually that nostalgia bonus like helps me enjoy the sequel more. And in this case, it went the other way. It worked against it for me because it just didn't look right. It was almost like not that it had the soap opera effect, but it had that same feeling of like something's not right.
Well, I'll say this. I think the thing that I was expecting was I was expecting this to see some other cameos. Like I would have liked to have seen uh, Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin kind of at the very least have them like walk into the room. Hey, we're taking off. We'll be back later, kind of thing. Whatever it is, just as having them in the movie would have been cool. And the it didn't take long for me to figure out who the bad guy was. It was, I think most people figured it out when they were told, "Hey, he's the bad guy," and you're like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Yeah, he's probably the bad guy." This is feeling like a younger version of Beetlejuice kind of thing, and maybe that's what they're gonna do in the next movie is they'll make that guy the new Beetlejuice character or the kind of passing of the torch kind of thing. But
That would be interesting. But yeah, but I wonder if the new one wasn't. I wonder if it was still shot on digital, if it wasn't shot on film, because
maybe
that
that's
may
what it
be
is because to me it
that's
didn't look
because
like
that really has an effect on me.
the all the sandworm stuff that all looked like it was practical to me, but I don't know. I need to rewatch
But
it.
maybe if it's not shot on film, that may be what I'm picking up on because the difference between shooting something on film, like I still think anything that you want to you want to hold it in prestige, make your movie on film. That's
Right.
why I love the Fallout series so much because it was shot entirely on film.
Oh wow,
Um,
yeah. All right. Well, then I have two more stories to talk about here. I think I'm gonna skip to the last one, and then I'll do the second to the last one as the final story. Um,
sure.
I I I realized I saw an ad for it on TV the other day that the TV series Surreal Estate has a third season. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't even
Great
know it was
name.
coming
Great
back.
name.
So I was like,
I never heard of it, but that's a great name.
it's a really cool series. I kind of put in the description of kind of what the series is about on the show notes, so you can get an idea. They have the first two seasons available on probably Peacock or whatever the NBC streaming would be. Uh, so
That's Peacock, yeah.
yeah, so I think if you want to see season 3, All right. Well, that was interesting. My computer decided to disconnect from the internet. So for those of
First
you,
live show, first live problem.
oh yeah, uh,
That's how you know it's really live. So the live, if you were listening to this live, now here's where you can pick back up and hear the end of the show.
yeah. I think yeah. I don't know what happened honestly. I just know that everything that I was clicking on wasn't loading. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna disconnect. And
Are you on Wi-Fi?
I am, yeah,
Anything can happen with Wi-Fi. Somebody starts a microwave next door. You never know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
In my office, in my work office, back when I didn't just work remotely, our Wi-Fi would cut out every time somebody used the office microwave.
Of course.
So we were talking about Surreal Estate, which
It,
which has Tim Rosen and Sarah Levy. It's kind of a Schitt's Creek reunion of a cast.
I mean, it's a Canadian show, so a lot of the actors you've seen on other Canadian shows like Schitt's
Yeah,
Creek.
there's only a handful of Canadian actors, so they got
I
to use them
mean,
in everything.
I mean the ones that haven't moved to California to work in Hollywood are the ones you're going to see in a lot of those types of shows. So I was aware of him from Winona Earp. He played only the second best Doc Holliday. You know, uh,
After of course
Val,
our big guy Val
Val
Kilmer.
Kilmer. Yeah, but yeah, I think yeah, the show is when I first saw the listing for it, I was like, oh, this could be interesting. I wasn't sure how I was gonna like watching because I wasn't sure initially if it was like a reality show or if it was a drama because the description made it sound like
Well,
it was like Property
that's what I
Brothers.
was gonna, that's what I was going to ask you. Is when I read the description that you posted, I was like, oh, is this like a Ghost Hunters meets Property Brothers type of
Yeah, that's what I
mashup?
was thinking too. I don't know, when I started watching, I was like, oh no, this is a drama. This is like Property Brothers beats like X Files. You know, whenever they were doing like the episodes where it was dealing with like ghosts and goblins and whatever else. So basically, I don't know
The sale is out there.
how much was said before, but essentially he is a real estate agent who has the ability to talk to the dead. He basically talks them into moving on or helping them with their whatever makes them stuck. He helps them move forward, and then he's able to sell the house or the building or whatever. But yeah, it's a fun show. It's on the Sci-Fi Channel here in the states, or Syfy as I used to call it, SYFY. And
I don't know if I get that on YouTube TV. I might be syphilis.
uh, yeah, Sci-Fi Channel I believe is not part of YouTube television,
Yeah,
but
it's syphilis. It's without syphy.
so there I have found ways to watch cable networks over the internet. I can tell you offline how to do that. But
I would never do that.
yeah,
Waste of
I,
your
w-
time.
I wouldn't either. But I'm just saying if you want to watch the
For
show,
educational purposes only.
yes, for educational and entertainment purposes only. But yeah,
All right. Well,
I think you're right about the microwave. I think that's probably what did it because now I'm smelling food.
is it almonds? Do you taste almonds? Are you having a
No, no,
stroke?
I'm smelling like
Burnt toast?
and no. Sometimes I wish, but no, I'm smelling like teriyaki. I'm smelling soy
Oh,
sauce.
oh, now I'm hungry.
Yeah, right. But so yeah, and the last thing I was gonna talk about, and then and of course I lost everything because I had to reboot the computer. Um, I'm going to my closed or my history. Where is it? Mm-mm-mm. Here it is.
Is that your fire detector going off?
I think, yeah, someone burning food in the other room. Yes, that's what that is. Okay, so the last story, as I have it pulled back up here, this is off of unexplainedmysteries.com. I was digging through my Feedly earlier, and I ran across this. Are these resurrected direwolves the real deal or simply lookalikes? essentially what I don't know if you've heard this or not, but scientists have successfully cloned dire wolves, or what looks like dire wolves. This article is saying that they took the genes from an extinct animal, and was able to create a new version of it using its closest relative that is existing today, and so they have there's photos even of these dire wolf looking
They're
puppies.
super cute.
They're very cute.
I saw a video of them howling.
Oh really? I
Yeah.
bet that's adorable.
Little awoos.
Yeah, but I was just like, okay, do we really need to be like bringing back things like this into the world? I mean,
Well, everybody immediately made the Jurassic Park comparison,
of
right?
course, because that's like the first thing everyone should think about when they thought about if they could, not whether or not they should.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing Jeff Goldblum, but
Life finds a way.
finds a way, yeah. And it's I don't know. When I saw these, I've seen videos of them as well, and they I don't know how old they are, but they're decent sized animals, and they're not small. They're not tiny puppies.
Well, I don't know if you've seen Game of Thrones, but dire wolves were huge.
I tried watching that show, and I got as far as seeing two siblings fuck, and I was like, I'm good. I don't really need to see anymore.
And I'm spent.
Yeah, not to. Yeah, no, that really weirded me out to the point of like I'm not interested in watching anything else. But I don't even care to watch the spin-off series because I'm sure there's more incest in that as well.
I don't watch the spin-off series, but my wife does, and I know when she's watching it because there is just blood-curdling screams echoing through the house
wow.
while it's on.
Well, I used to call the show Boobs and Dragons because
Yeah, no, that's fair.
that's pretty accurate as a description of what you're going to see when you watch that show. And then I saw that episode. I'm like, no, still Boobs and Dragons still sounds appropriate. I don't necessarily need to add any other descriptors to it. Incest and dragons could have worked as well, I guess. But yeah.
I watched the first season, and then after they killed the best character, I was like, oh, well, I guess I don't really care about watching this anymore.
No, it's funny because during the time that all these new episodes were coming out, people are like, don't spoil this episode. I haven't watched it yet, and blah blah blah. These are the same people that would go on and comment every 10 minutes that they're watching whatever sporting event that they're watching, and they comment every 10 to 20 minutes about what's going on. It's like, for someone who doesn't want to be spoiled on Game of Thrones, you're talking an awful lot about this game. You think maybe,
Yeah, I know. I have to stay off Facebook if I'm watching a game late on record or something like
you think
that.
maybe that people who have to work those hours would like to actually watch that game, and then they probably get notifications every time you comment about whoever that person is that did the thing with the ball and the other thing with the other ball. Yeah. I legitimately lost like 50 friends on Facebook that day because I was just done with like the constant comments. Because it wasn't just one person. It was like 30 people all doing the same thing. I was like, dude, come on. I don't care. People who care are going to either watch it with you, or they're going to be waiting till later when they are not working to watch it, so don't be a dick and stop spoiling the fucking game.
Yeah. Everyone's got to get their opinions out, though, because that's what else are sports for than arguing over what's actually happening.
Right.
But these dire wolves, like I think you're getting to the crux of the issue is there's a question on, are these really dire wolves, or are these just genetically modified?
They look like dire wolves, and there's some similarities in the genetics because of this gene splicing, but I think.
But they're not. They're not really.
I don't believe you can call them a dire wolf any more than you can call what the thing is that they're. I don't know. There's another. It may even be the same group of people. Fuck, I don't know. There's a group of people, scientists, that have decided to resurrect the velociraptor using chicken DNA.
Right, yeah. So it's just a modified chicken more than it's an actual dinosaur.
Yeah.
Like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park were really frogs, modified frogs.
I mean, yeah. So I think the end result is that it's not technically a direwolf. It will have some direwolf attributes, but it is not a direwolf.
And all the money they spent on this, I want to know, like, what is the upshot of this research? Like, is this going to be something where we eventually can, like, cure cancer because of this research or something? Because otherwise, it feels like a vanity project that wasted a bunch of money.
Right.
Where this money could have been spent elsewhere. I don't usually like to do why'd you spend money on that when you could have done this? Because you can what about anything that way.
Yeah.
But unless this really has potential for breakthroughs in health or something like that, it's just because if we're at the point where we're using this technology to bring back a species, it doesn't mean it's a species that just died out. It's only going to be for species that died out eons ago and don't need to be. We need to spend this money to prevent current species from dying out more than we need to worry about resurrecting ones that are long since died out.
And my next question is this: where are these wolves going to live? Are they going to live on a farm someplace where they're not going to be reintroducing direwolf genetics?
Yeah, they're going to a farm upstate, Todd.
They're going to go live with that, what was it, senator? That woman who shot her puppy? They're going to go live with her.
Well, that's what we talked about earlier, Kristi Noem. She's now the head. That lady that shot her dog in the gravel pit is the head of DHS now, Department of Homeland Security. That's the woman that's getting sued along with the head of ICE.
Maybe those dogs can go live with her. I don't know. It seems like an interesting story. And
it is. It's definitely an interesting story.
It's just like, I mean, I have this site as one of the feeds I have, largely because I was looking for blogs that had like weird stories. I wanted to have like, at one point on another podcast, I wanted to have like a weekly weird news kind of thing.
Sure.
Just kind of like, what's weird this week, or what's geek this week. I mean, it was because it had stories about Bigfoot, it had stories about UFOs, and it had stories about, Area 51, that kind of thing. So yeah,
I like it. We can't call it weekly weird news, so we'll have to call it what's weird this week. So yeah, we got what's geek this week and what's weird this week. I'd like that as ongoing things.
That could work. Yeah, I mean, I was actually legitimately looking for a website that would have things like Florida Man stories and things like that.
I like it. So I think that wraps up the show for this week.
Hello? I just lost him again. Doug?
That's the YouTube channel, TODD.
I lost you, dude. You were gone for a good 10 seconds.
Oh, boy. So all I really said is that does it for the show this week. You can get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. If you're not listening to this on YouTube, please head over to Todd ADHD Rocks. That's the channel. That's TODD ADHD ROCKS.
Yep.
And you can like and subscribe there. Hit the bell notification so you know whenever we're going live. You can jump on with us, chat at us. We'd love to have chats. Maybe in the future we'll even have the ability to take calls. Who knows?
I mean, I have that ability. I have a Google Voice number we can use, and then I can pair that up with my recording setup. And
well, then eventually we will have the ability to take calls, and then that'll be a fun thing, I think, to get engagement, is if people can call and yell at us. That'll be.
What are you guys talking about, man? That didn't work. Yeah.
But great show. I think unless you got any final thoughts, Todd.
Just that go ahead and go to the link tree on the video and follow us on all the links that are there.
Give us a good review.
Give a 5-star review on the Apple, and give us a 5-star review over on the Spotify. If you go to podfollow.com/ADHPPOD, that will take you right to where you can listen to the podcast from your device. And yeah.
Right on. It. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Sounds good.
ADHD, we're running